Good evening, everyone. My name is Barbara Gould, and I'm the Director of Counseling, Health, and Wellness. Thank you for joining us tonight for High School South Class of 2023 College Planning Night. I'm here with my co-host, Michelle Walsh, who's our lead counselor at High School South. Honestly, she really is the host because she has all of the knowledge and information to share with you this evening. I also would like to recognize our counseling team that works very diligently to support families and students here in WWP, and that is Mr. Michael Alberto, Ms. Antonella Ficini, Ms. Megan Erico, Ms. Christine Javik, Ms. Brooke Parrott, Ms. Molly Rooney, and Ms. Sherry Smith. And they are here to support your students through all 4 years of high school and definitely through this college planning process. And so we will get started tonight. Just a few housekeeping things. If you could just reserve some of your questions for the end of the presentation, it's very, very likely that Mrs. Walsh or I will have answered your questions prior to you asking them. So just hold on to some of the questions for the end. I will be monitoring the chat, as will Mrs. Walsh, and we'll kind of just shout out questions that are coming up that we see as themes or patterns, and that way we can share the information out verbally with everyone. The other question we get frequently is whether or not this webinar is being recorded, and it is being recorded and will be made available in case you miss any of it or you just want to watch it again, because there is a lot of great and important information that is being shared tonight. So with that, without further ado, we'll kind of get started with tonight's presentation. Oh, hello, Ms. Smith. Thank you for joining us. So a couple of important considerations as you're going through the college planning process that are just important for you to note. The first and most important thing really is to trust the process. Our school counselors are very well versed. They are constantly learning new information, the most updated information, and sharing that with our students, and really, trusting them and trusting this process, and that we promise that it will happen and you will get through it with the support of our school counselors. And so, don't panic and just be reassured that it's going to happen. All of it will be accomplished and that you'll work together to do that. The other thing that is really important just to think about in the whole planning process is that colleges and universities are not only interested in what students do or their resume or the list of things that they're involved in, but more importantly, they're also interested in who students are. So in the college application process, you really want to highlight and shine and kind of convey to the college that you're seeking to attend, who you are through your application. What makes you uniquely you? Because they are looking at hundreds of thousands of applications, and so it's important that that really is highlighted. The other piece that's important to note is that college admissions is really not only about finding colleges that you think, are great colleges, but really colleges that are fit for you. We have over 4,000 colleges here, and that is just in the United States, and there are other, international colleges as well. And so there are many different paths that our students can take in order to reach their fullest potential, and really being open to that process and really searching for the best place that fits you. As an applicant, you're also looking for an environment, not only that where you can thrive academically, but also where you can thrive personally, a place where you will feel connected, a place where, they have various activities that you are interested in and want to continue to pursue as you attend college. It's really important that you consider the campus community when making these decisions as well. And most importantly, you are not alone in the process. At any point in the process, please feel comfortable to reach out to your school counselor with questions, with anything that might come up in the process that you feel you need more information about. That's why they're here. And they, as I mentioned earlier, they're extremely well versed in this process and they can help support you. I mentioned just a couple of best practices for applications. You really want to tell your unique story. So making sure that you can demonstrate, your academics, but not only that, colleges also look at, what students pursue in terms of how do they demonstrate their curiosity about the area that they might want to study, their impact on their school community and also their local community, their character and who they are as a person, and also their personal skills. And some of the places where you can highlight these things are through your teacher recommendations, which Ms. Walsh will talk about later, and also through your college essays, which will also be discussed. But those are places where you really want to show not only, what you're capable of in the classroom, but they already have that academic record, but also the impact that you've made on the school community or your local community and who you are as a person or your character and your personal skills. Staying calm, organized, and really following through with deadlines is really critical. The college planning process can be overwhelming, but it's important that, you pay attention to those deadlines and you pay attention to what's coming up and kind of take it one step at a time. And with that, Ms. Walsh will take it over and get into the nitty-gritty of exactly what happens.
Okay, awesome. I'm not muted, right? Hi, everybody. Thanks, Barb, for that nice introduction of our team. This was actually your last slide, the one that's up there now that talks about assessments, but we're going to kind of get into that, and we talk to the students about it as far as even before COVID, but since COVID, it's even more so that through this application season, many colleges are remaining test optional. And that has its pros and cons actually in the process, and it changes the process up a little bit as far as what becomes even more important and so forth. So we'll talk a little bit about that as we move along. I'm going to kind of go over the process with you tonight. Some of it will seem, I'm going to try not to be too detail oriented, but what we try to do is you're going to be using Naviance and Common App and so forth in this process to bring everything together. And so I'm going to go through each of those and kind of highlight the things that sometimes trip people up, and kind of just emphasize how this process works, how all of the things that colleges need get from West Windsor to the colleges. And just so you know, we will be meeting with students tomorrow during lunch, both lunches, in obviously much smaller group than tonight, but thank you everybody for coming. We have almost 400 attendees. And then also in person tomorrow. So, some of your specific questions will be answered tomorrow. You'll be able to answer it, get your questions answered in person in a much more intimate setting. So hopefully tonight is beneficial, and then tomorrow is going to kind of be like a little bit of a cleanup from tonight. Okay. In this slide presentation, which will be posted, you'll see the other slide is some upcoming admissions events and so forth. So we'll move on from there. One of the upcoming events is our college fair, which will be held on October 13th. And although maybe you might have your list of schools set and so forth, if your representatives are coming, or if you think you want to maybe add some, or you're not really sure, if there's any other schools out there that you're not really aware of or something like that, I encourage you to come. When we have our fair, we're using a system called StriveFair, which when you register at this strivefair.com, or if you scan this barcode, you will get a barcode. So those of you that have went to the fair last year, I know there was a year or two maybe where we didn't even have a fair, but the fair last year, we told you to bring labels, or if you didn't bring labels, you had to fill out every single card by hand. Now you can scan your barcode and the colleges will get information about you. So everybody that we're inviting to the fair, which is seniors as well as 11th graders, we're encouraging them to register at strivefair.com. Here's the barcode, here's the website. Again, we'll have this available tomorrow. We'll have it around the school and so forth. Part of tonight is kind of learning the language. When we talk about Strive Fair, you know what that means, and some of the other components that we go through tonight. Just another couple housekeeping things. Hopefully by now as a senior, although I do know we have some new students that joined South as seniors. So if you haven't, for whatever reason, joined our High School South Counseling Google Classroom for the class of 2023, please do so. There's the code. Tomorrow, you will receive a copy of your unofficial transcript. And the reason for that, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, is that for some schools, you're going to be needing that transcript. There are some schools that are going to be requiring you to enter every single class and grade that you earned throughout high school. So that transcript will come in very handy. And the other exciting thing is that starting September 19th, next Monday, college admission reps visit us during lunch. They're here every day. The people that come are your admission reps. They're the people that will be reading your applications, reading your essays, and they're here to answer your questions. But they're also here to see who's truly interested in their school. Okay, when colleges get 60,000 applications, they're not really sure how interested you are. And so part of that interest that they kind of expect is if they visit your high school, that you're going to take the time out of your lunch to attend that information session, talk to them, ask any questions, meet them, so forth. It's a great opportunity. Don't do it just for that reason. You can talk to them about your essay topic. You can ask them, should I or should I not submit my scores to you? They're here for you. They're your admissions rep for this part of New Jersey. So we're going to be showing you tomorrow where you can see the schedule for that, where you can register, and you can start to plan out. It'll also be posted in Google Classroom, and we really encourage you to attend these sessions as they come through. So there are a lot of things that colleges require you to submit, and some of you have seen this already. Some of you, everyone's sort of at a different spot, and nobody should panic about that. There's no perfect spot to be right now. We worked with you throughout the spring and stuff to start to develop your list. Some of you have a definitive list. Some of you don't have a definitive list. Some of you are still trying to figure that out, and that's all okay. We have time. Everything doesn't have to be done by September 30th. I know sometimes there's pressure around here to get things like so early, but we have a little bit of time. But it can be confusing too. And so we're going to give you an overview today, and then I'm going to show you that a document that you're going to be able to go to when you're ready for that particular step. Okay. So some of the roles that the students have. So while you're at South, students, you are responsible for contacting your teachers for their recs. Many of you have done that already, and making sure you filled out whatever teacher input form that they require, whether it's the one in Naviance or the one that they have. Some teachers make their own input form. In the counseling office, the counseling rec packet, which we've talked about, the FERPA waiver, which is a Google Doc a Google form that you filled out. You're going to request your transcript through Naviance, and we're going to explain how to do that tomorrow. And you're going to adhere to deadlines. At home, you're going to do your applications, and you're going to request, if you want to send your scores from either SAT or the ACT board. And we can certainly guide you in whether we think you should send or not send and so forth, but it is not something that we do. That's what's important here, is that you understand kind of the pieces that you're responsible for. So colleges need a lot of things, and they come from different sources. You kind of act as the manager of all the sources, okay? So what does the school counselor do? The school counselor does the recommendation, the transcript, the secondary school report, and the school profile. The teacher does the recommendation. So everyone's sort of working on these things at the same time. So you're working on your application while your teacher's working on your recommendation, while your counselor's working on the recommendation and pulling together your transcript and completing your secondary school report. And then we all send separately. You send your application from home. I send your stuff from my office. Your teacher sends it from their office or their classroom. And it all goes to the college, and it should all be there before the deadline. And it finds its way together at the college. Okay, so I'm going to keep emphasizing this, and I'll do it again tomorrow, that we're working at the same time. In other words, if your deadline is November 1st, what we can't have is you working so hard on your application and doing your essays and so forth, and then on October 31st, you come and say, hey, Miss Walsh, I finished everything. Go ahead and send my things. Because we need time. You can only imagine how many recommendations we have to write and the paperwork and so forth that goes with this whole process. So we're going to talk about that. But what you're doing is you're working on your stuff, but you're also making sure Miss Walsh is working. You're making sure your teachers are working. If College Board or ACT has to be working, you contact them and make sure they're working. So everything's there by the deadline, and everyone in your little that you're managing understands those deadlines, knows exactly what your deadlines are. Okay, so what do I do first? Some of you have done this already and some of you have not, and that's perfectly fine. You're going to sort of start to finalize your list of schools. And that might be a process. It doesn't mean you're finalizing them by tomorrow. Maybe you're going to finalize them after you go to the college fair, or after you meet the reps during lunch, or after you have a longer conversation with your counselor. We just came back. We've only been in school for 5 days. So patience is a virtue, and we will be meeting with all of you. And, you can certainly book your counselor and talk about your list of schools and make sure it's an appropriate list. Most of you, for at least some of your schools, will be completing a common application. They're in, like 3,000 schools or something. So if you haven't already done so, you're going to make a Common App account. And then for other schools, maybe they don't use Common App, so they have their own electronic application, or maybe they use the Coalition app. There's a variety of ways, and depending on your list. And again, if you have questions about whether you should use Common App or Coalition or what application to kind of streamline your personal process, certainly that's where your help with your counselors are. We spend a lot of time in the fall with our seniors, so don't worry. And then there's kind of 3 steps to the common application, and I'm not going to go into detail on every single one. I'm going to highlight the things that kind of confuse people sometimes. But the first thing, if you haven't done this already, is you're going to start to add the colleges that you want to apply to the My Colleges tab in the common application. Then you're going to go in and enter some demographic information and school information. So just a couple things. I know that some of the stuff sounds silly, but when you rush, that's where mistakes are made. So when you're in the education part, be sure to select South and the appropriate counselor, so it knows exactly where you go to high school. In this slide presentation is our counselor emails, as well as our extensions, which they ask for. So again, this is going to be available to you forever. So you can always come back to this if you need that information. Then there's a page on grades that asks your graduating class size. I did send an email in the summer with some of this information, so those of you that wanted to get started could get started, but your graduating class size is 427. Where it asks for class rank, we enter none because West Windsor does not rank. We have a no rank policy, which is very common in schools like us. Our GPA scale reporting, it is 4. I know there's weighted classes and you can get a 5 and all that jazz, and we'll talk about that later. But when we want to put apples to apples for the colleges, we put everything on a 4.0 scale, an unweighted scale. They do know, they care deeply about your rigor and your strength of curriculum, and they look at that in a separate place. So when you get to this page, these are kind of the answers to that page. And then another question that kids have a lot on another page under education is honors. And do you want to report any honors? And students sometimes don't really know what that means or don't know if they have any honors. We don't, as a school district, have like honor roll every marking period or anything like that. So you wouldn't have that to put in. Remember, the Common App is for students around the whole country. So they try to put any possible thing on there that they can, as Ms. Gould was mentioning before, get to know you and know what you do. So what is honors? It might be National Honor Society. You might be a National Merit semifinalist, but it might be an award you won or something like that. Maybe you don't have another spot for it, so it fits in this spot. Go ahead and put it in. It doesn't hurt, as long as it's kind of like an honor or an award or something to that effect. If you don't have any of that, that's okay too. You don't have to have an honor to go to college. You just have to have some other things, right? So, but they just put this on there so that students have an opportunity to share that information if they want to share it. And so they put it on there. But don't think that if you have nothing to put in honors because you never were in National Honor Society or something like that, that your doors closed to college, because it's by far not. Okay, so those are some of the things with that. And then the step 3 of the common application is, I'll go back. Oh, sorry. Is the recommenders and the FERPA waiver. Okay, the FERPA waiver allows us to write a narrative recommendation about you. And it tells the colleges when you sign it and when you waive your right, it basically communicates to the college that your recommendation is very valid and sincere, and you're not writing it because the student's going to read it necessarily. I promise you that anybody writing a recommendation for you, including your counselors, is going to highlight your strengths. We're not here to highlight weaknesses or say anything not nice about you. We're highlighting your strengths. That's our goal here. And although you don't get to specifically read it, so to speak, you have a lot of input into it through those input forms. And that's why we ask you to complete them thoroughly and so forth, because we want you to tell us things that we might not know about you. We try to get to know you the best that we can, but there are times when you do things outside of school, or you have family circumstances and things like that that we didn't even know about, that speak really highly to your character, your resilience, and things like that. So you have input into it, but I digress. When you come to here, so when you go to the FERPA waiver, you notice in Common App, you just have to click on one of your schools. So under My Colleges, you click on one school, it will go across the board. You go down to Recommenders and FERPA, and you choose Complete the Release Authorization. From there, you choose I waive my right to review recommendations and supporting documents. And then you save and you close that. And so that's the FERPA waiver. None of your documents, if you haven't become friends with Naviance recently, you should really make friends with Naviance, because as you're going to see, everything kind of goes through Common App, and Naviance are going to talk together, and everything goes through Naviance. So it's really important that if you don't have your FERPA waiver signed, when we try to send things via Naviance, they won't go. Another place is you're going to have to tell the college how you're applying. Regular decision, early action, early decision, priority. There's a lot of different types of decisions now. Again, if you're confused about that, then certainly that's a conversation you can have with your counselor. But early decision, any type of early decision, whether it's early decision 1 or early decision 2, is a binding agreement. And so it requires multiple signatures. It requires your signature, It requires a parent signature and a counselor signature. And when we sign off, we're basically saying that we counseled you and then your parents, that they understand that should you get into that school via early decision, you will go no matter what. So even if you get in somewhere else or they don't give you enough money or something like that, you're committing to attending that school. So you do your choose your admission plan. And then if you chose early decision, if you're somebody that's doing early decision, at the bottom of the next page, you're going to see a spot where it says invite a parent. And you're going to click on that, send it to your parent's email, and then your parents are going to have to kind of sign off on that they understand what early decision means. So there's some just trips in Common App. There's probably more. And again, if you haven't looked at this yet, your head's probably already spinning. But again, these slides will be available, but that's also why we're meeting tomorrow in a smaller in-person spot where we can kind of go through some of this stuff in a little more detail and on a screen where you're in the room together. You bring your Chromebooks, by the way, and you can go in kind of with us. So Naviance and Common App are friends, and you should be friends with both of them as well. Naviance is ultimately how all of your documents from my office and your teacher's office are going to get to the schools. Your stuff is going through your computer at home. The rest of the stuff is going through Naviance. Okay, so we're just going to kind of go over a few basics with Naviance, some things that are important. The counselor rec packet, we talked about this in the spring, and it was actually due April 1st. I don't think all of you turned it in by April 1st, or you didn't turn all the pieces in by April 1st. So one of the things that's going to be really important is if you start requesting transcripts on Naviance, it's going to be important that you stop by your counselor's office and make sure that they have your whole rec packet. Because if we don't, then that transcript request kind of doesn't, the timeline for the transcript request process doesn't start until we have everything. So it's really important that you swing by, or you can talk with your counselor tomorrow, or when, you know, depending on schedules, and find out, what am I still missing, or do I have everything? We talked a lot about that in the spring. So for the counselor rec packet, you needed to do both the parent and the student input forms, which are under About Me in Naviance. And then you had to sign the FERPA waiver, which was a Google form. And you had to submit some sort of resume, whether it be your own form of a resume or whether you use the resume in Naviance. There had to be a resume attached. And again, it's really all for the better for you, because it's going to help us write a stronger recommendation. And then this is the college's home tab. Some of you might have seen this. You can do a lot from here. You can do college searches, college matches. You can compare colleges. In junior year, we were spending a lot of time putting colleges in colleges I'm thinking about. So maybe some of you already have a robust list in colleges I'm thinking about. This is the year now that we move them to colleges I'm applying to, not necessarily all of them, but the ones that you decide to apply to, you will move over to colleges that I'm applying to. So your colleges I'm thinking about looks like this. And you're going to decide which ones you want to apply to. And you don't have to do it all in one day. If right now all you know is you definitely want to apply to Rutgers, you can choose Rutgers and move that to your active list. And then you can wait for a meeting with your counselor or more conversations with your family and so forth, and decide going forward, you know, what colleges you want to apply to. You might find a new college on October 13th at the college fair too. So there's no, like, everything doesn't have to be done in one shot. This is kind of a process that we go through really between now and winter break for the most part. Okay, so then you're going to move them to active applications, and that means that you want to apply there. When you do that, it's going to ask you some questions because as soon as you move them to active applications, you're basically confirming I definitely want to apply there. So it's going to ask you, how do you want to apply? Priority, early action, early decision, regular decision, and then how you're submitting your application. Are you using the Common App? Are you using the Coalition application? How are you submitting? And then you're going to add and request transcripts. This is this is how you request a transcript from your counselor. And so then we would see that on our end that you requested. But remember that the first thing I do when I get a request is, do I have all of their rec packet? Do I have everything that I need? Did they do the pieces that they need? When you are on the college that I'm applying to page in Naviance, probably one of the first times you're on there, you're going to get this big pink box, and it says that you need to match your accounts. So this is where you're matching Common Application with Naviance. They marry each other and now they can talk. So things can't go unless it's matched. You match one time. Once you match for your first college, your first Common App college, you're good. But you just have to match at least one time. And we'll show you this again tomorrow. What will happen when you click on match accounts is you'll be redirected to your Common Application account. You'll have to sign in to confirm it's you, and that's how it knows to merge everything. And then eventually when everything gets sent, literally I press the send button, your teachers press the send button from our side. It goes and then it waits or meets up with, or depending on what gets there first, your Common Application. Okay. You don't really have to understand the how and whys. I'm just trying to paint a little picture for you because it can be confusing. Also in Naviance, this is where you officially request your teachers. I've already had some teachers come down saying that they asked me in June or whatever, but I don't see them on my portal. And I've explained to them that we haven't shown you how to do that yet. And we're showing you tonight and we're showing you tomorrow. So although you asked them and you emailed them and they agreed and so forth, you have to kind of show up on their portal so they can do it and then submit it. And for that to happen, you will go to About Me. And again, we'll show you this tomorrow together. Which teacher will you be reading the responses? And there's a drop down. It doesn't really show it here, but you'll be able to drop down and choose a teacher from that. Whoops. And then you will show up on their portal. Actually, here it is. I'm sorry. This is where you can see the drop down. Now, you have a choice of asking your two teachers to send to all current and future colleges from here on out. Every time you add a college and we send, their recommendations will go. Or you can choose specific colleges. Truthfully, for the most part, all probably is the easier one. But for different reasons, some students have 2 or 3 recommenders, and maybe their third recommender is a teacher here, but they're really their coach or they're their music teacher, and the colleges want 2 academic teachers or something like that. So if that's the case, then you would choose specific, and then every time you enter a college, it's going to give you an opportunity for you to tell them exactly where Mr. Brack's rec should go and where Mr. Westowski's rec should go and so forth. And you can sort of cherry pick, for lack of a better word, where they go. When you do this, it's going to show you exactly how many recommendations each school allows. Not every school wants 3 recommendations. They have a lot of things to read. So some say they require 1, but they'll take 2. Some require 2, but will take 2. Only take 2. Some require 2 and they'll agree to take 4, something like that. So you just have to be careful. And this is, we recommend that you only ask 2 teachers to write on your behalf, but I totally understand why sometimes you want an extra person. As a coach myself, there are times when I write for some players on my team, even though I'm not their teacher and I'm not their counselor. I write as their coach, and I don't send to everybody. I only send to the schools that they tell me that will actually accept my recommendation. So this can sometimes get confusing. We're going to reiterate it tomorrow, but certainly worth a conversation before you decide whether you want all or specific. And for some of you that you already know, it's 2. I'm asking 2 people, that's it. You're pretty safe with saying all for the 2. As I mentioned before, you're going to get your unofficial transcript tomorrow in our lunch meeting. And that's because there are a number of schools that have become what we call self-reporting schools. Rutgers is one of them. I just came back from a program at the University of Pittsburgh. They're also self-reporting schools. So those schools require the student to self-report every class and every grade that they earned in high school. They also ask certain questions like, what kind of format does your school follow? That's why we put that here. Choose yearly, which just means that all of our classes are a full year. I know health is not, but we kind of merge PE and health and call it a full year. We don't have half-year classes really. It'll ask for your Smart ID. That's located in your Naviance account profile. It's also in Genesis. And you will do the self-report of academic record. They will use that, your recommendations if they require them, your essay for sure, and they will accept or not accept you based on that information. Only after you're accepted and agree to come will they ask us for an official transcript, and then they will compare what you reported versus your official transcript. So they sort of take a step away from requiring the transcript. A lot of times it's large universities like Rutgers University, the University of Pittsburgh, some other large state universities have gone to self-reporting academic records. They are not always a part of their application. So you have to be very careful. Rutgers, for example, is not. You think you're finished with your application, and if you don't read the fine print, you need to direct yourself to the self-report of academic record, they call it the SRAR. And if you don't do that, it's going to always appear that your application is incomplete, and you're going to wonder why, because you're going to think you completed it, but you forgot to do the self-reporting part. So transcript requests. Remember I said that we're all working at the same time, and that how you request is you move your colleges from I'm thinking about to I'm applying to, and then it generates a request to us, okay? So you need to submit that 3 weeks prior to your earliest deadline. So take a deep breath now, because everyone gets confused about that and they think we're asking them to be finished with everything 3 weeks prior to the deadline, but we're not. We want to just work at the same time as you. So you give me your request 3 weeks prior to your deadline, and that gives me time, you and the 100 other students are doing the same thing, and to write your rec, to get your things together while you're also working. Your teachers need this same lead time because they're also writing a lot and teaching all day, and they want to be working when you are. So remember, if that deadline is November 1, if we're all working from October 11th to November 1, we'll all get our things in, we'll all send them, and they'll all marry each other at the college in their system. Okay, so that's why that really, to get your transcript requests done for us, you just have to follow that process of moving the colleges over to the ones I'm applying to. And you have to make sure that your recommendation packets are done, because your transcript can only be processed if that's done. So you request a transcript tomorrow, for example, and none of your stuff is done, kind of your 3-week timeline doesn't start yet. So if you don't really remember whether you have that packet complete, that's worthy of a conversation or an email or something to your counselor to see what pieces you're missing. Okay. And again, it kind of highlights what those pieces are, the recommendation packet, the FERPA waiver, and then also the early decision agreements. If you're applying early decision and don't sign the agreement, Naviance will not allow us to submit. So here's a little handy dandy table that tells you your deadlines. So I didn't make up October 11th. If you have a November 1st deadline, which is common for early action and early decision schools and some priority and so forth, you just need to request your transcripts by October 11th. Your stuff doesn't have to get to the college till November 1st, and neither does mine, and neither does your teachers. But we want to start working on it no later than October 11th so that we have time to get everything together and make sure it gets there and so forth. And then we just put some really common deadlines here, and we backed out the 3-week timeline. The only thing that's different is because of winter break in December. If you have December 31st, January 1st, or January 15th deadlines, which is over the break and right when we come back, all requests are due to us by December 2nd. Okay, so this is just a good little timeline to go back to. The FAFSA, which is your free application for federal student aid, gets released on October 1st. So this is new over the last couple of years. If you have much older students, you remember this process was more in the spring. So you could get through the application process and then in the spring deal with this. Now you're dealing with it all at the same time. The FAFSA is a little bit more of an adult document probably, so it's going to fall more on the parents. But you just want to pay attention to each college has their own individual FAFSA deadlines too. And sometimes you have to complete the FAFSA to be eligible for certain scholarships and so forth. So just kind of pay attention to FAFSA information. And we're going to have, stay tuned for more information on resources for financial aid and FAFSA completion and things like that from our office. As I said, tomorrow, we're going to be meeting with students during lunch. Both lunches. So we put our locations in Google Classroom, but I'm going to show them to you here in 1 second if you write them down really quick. But if not, this slide presentation is available to you, as well as it's in your Google Classroom. This is, again, utilized for individual questions. I know it can be challenging. We're on this with lots of attendees, and it's all virtual, and we're going to get to some of your questions here in a little bit. But tomorrow will be a more intimate thing where you know your counselor, you can ask questions, we can have some of those conversations during lunch. Okay, here's where we all are, so you can sort of take a look or look back to this or look in your Google Classroom. Most of you know this by now. If you don't, please utilize our booking sites. It's a great way to book us based on your schedule instead of popping down all the time. And I'm with somebody and you can't ask. You're like, Miss Walsh, I tried to find you 17 times today and you were always busy. You can just go to my booking site and you'll see the openings in my calendar and you can book a spot. It's really simple. Certainly if you're at lunch and you pop in, or if I'm in here or any of the counselors are in their office and you pop in, we welcome you to do that. But sometimes students get frustrated if they're not there or we're busy or something like that. So you can book me is a great tool that we've been using for quite a while, and it's very helpful. So utilize that to contact your counselor. This document, I'm just gonna bring it up for a second. So I gave you a ton of information tonight and took you through a lot of different processes and so forth. Some of you are really ready to go and you're like, already, I know what she's talking about. I'm moving my colleges tonight. I'm requesting my transcripts. I'm ready to go. Others of you are like, I'm still trying to finalize my lists. And by the time I get to the FERPA, I'm going to totally forget what you said, Mrs. Walsh, because it was like 3 Monday nights ago or Monday nights ago. So this document has categories, all clickable links. So for example, in the common application, if it's time for you to do the FERPA and you're like, wait, what did she say about the FERPA? You can literally click on that link and it will take you to screenshots of what the FERPA looks like. It's spinning for a minute. And remind you of exactly what you're supposed to do. Okay, so it's a great document to go back to. You heard a lot of information tonight. You're going to hear more information tomorrow, or kind of duplicate, but information tomorrow. But again, this document is for you to utilize as you're ready. So for example, if you're not ready to add your colleges yet, but then someday you're, wait, I got to add my colleges. What did she say about adding colleges? You come over here to this and you go to add colleges and it takes you right to the screen. So it's hopefully this is new this year, and we spent a lot of hours and time over the summer kind of creating it. It's also a fluid document, so we're going to add and subtract from it as we see fit. But it's certainly a great resource for you to utilize and go to at any time. It tells you what the council recommendation packet is. It explains the difference between all the different application types, how to send your SATs and ACTs and so forth. And then even for Rutgers, a lot of students, send an application to Rutgers. So there's self-reporting academic record tips and helpful hints. There's the application linked right into there. There's information about financial aid. I mean, I could go on and on. We're super proud of this document, and we think it's going to be really helpful to you. So
Ms. Walsh, where can they, there are a lot of questions I'm seeing about where can they find the link to this document besides the presentation?
Okay, I can, let me see. It's in the
Is it
present.
shared in Google Classroom?
It is in the presentation and it's going to be in Google Classroom. Yep.
Great.
Okay. And in the, and in these slides, you can always click into it. You see the 2023 college process slides.
Yep. And that will be posted on the district website tomorrow, as well as the webinar. So both of those get posted pretty much the next day. So you'll have access to the presentation and all of the links as well.
Terrific. So I know I gave you a lot of information, and maybe there's a lot that we covered. Sorry to be doing that. I'm going to stop my sharing for a second. And can you still hear me? It said I was muted at one point. So now I guess I haven't had a chance to kind of look through the chat. Are there any specific questions that people, or common questions, just general questions that I can answer?
Yes, Mrs. Walsh. Some students are some listeners are asking about letters of recommendation, and if they have outside community people that they'd like to ask, or if their teacher's gone.
Okay, that's a great question. So in Naviance, when you request a teacher, those teachers have to be working at West Windsor-Plainsboro. They have to have a West Windsor-Plainsboro address. Okay, you'll see in common application that there's a spot that asks you for other recommenders. You should never, ever request anyone with a West Windsor address as another recommender. You must do West Windsor people through Naviance. If you do have somebody outside, again, check the requirements of your college and whether they accept outside recommenders or extra recommenders, because the outside people cannot replace the 2 teachers required, or the 1 teacher that's required. But if they allow you an outside recommender, your music teacher, an outside coach, something you do outside of school, your boss or something like that, you can request them through common application. And then what happens is when you put their name and email in the common application as an other recommender, those people will get an email and be able to upload a letter. And then that also will go to the college and get married with all the other stuff that's going to the college and match up with your common application. So that's kind of how those other recommenders work. Just be aware. And again, if we can show you tomorrow where you can see that in Naviance exactly how many recommendation letters colleges will accept.
Another question that was asked was, should they continue to update their resume since it may have been 4 or 5 months?
Absolutely. You can always update your resume. You can always give your counselor a new resume. You can update it. If you're using the Naviance model, you can update it. You then have to rename it or resave it. We don't get a notification saying they've updated their resume or it's resaved or something like that. So just shoot us an email or bring in a printout to us and say, hey, Ms. Walsh, here's an updated resume. We're happy to do that. There's a lot of things that you guys probably did over the summer that you might want to include in the resume that wasn't included already. And some of that will come out in your input sheets maybe. You can also update those if you want to. You know, we're always willing. Again, the reason why we ask for that, we don't send your resume. Our recommendation doesn't just list all of your activities. You know, that's kind of for you to do. We look at the resume and some of your other things to sort of get a general idea of what kind of activities you like. Do you take on leadership positions? Do you have a passion for service? Are you a star athlete and you add a lot to your team? Do you mentor younger people? We look for some of those characteristics that Ms. Gould was talking about that colleges really care about. They don't care, they care that you're involved in the community, don't get me wrong, but they don't look at the math club as better than the soccer team or something like that. They just want to know kind of what you do and what you do with that. Do you demonstrate leadership, integrity, resilience? Those kind of things can be demonstrated through any activity, part-time jobs, taking care of younger siblings. It can be demonstrated a lot of different ways. And that's kind of what we look for. We might mention, you know, something you did great with your soccer team and how you mentored a new or how you became a captain, or you're not a captain, but you're a super strong leader despite not having a title and things like that. Those are the things that we sort of look for. So anything you want to update or add, it really helps us to create a much more vibrant recommendation. And back to those test optionals, you know, philosophy that's happening right now. The recommendations and the personal statements are so much more critical now because they get a lot of students, some of these schools that have, you know, good courses and good grades. What makes you different from the other student with the 3.4, right? And that's some of the things that you do. It's your personal statement, it's your recommendations and things like that. So you do want to be thoughtful with all of that.
There are some questions about, there are a number of students, it appears, that have different reasons why they are not able to attend tomorrow's lunch meeting. One is the tech school students who may be leaving on the bus. And then others are club advisors. And I guess there's a club fair going on. So when will they have an opportunity to be able to attend like a makeup or a different session?
Okay, so everything that we're doing tonight and tomorrow is going to be posted in Google Classroom. Those of you that have club fair responsibilities, I do understand that. If there's a way that the juniors can man your club fair table tomorrow, that would be nice. But if your advisor really wants you there, some clubs are smaller than others and they really only have seniors to man the table or something, you can certainly see your counselor and get your questions answered, you know, in a different thing. You can pick up your unofficial transcript from your counselor's office. Just kind of book, you know, make a booking time. We're hoping that a lot of you, you know, I know there's definitely reasons why some of you might even be absent tomorrow for some reason or another. So the information we're giving out tomorrow is not a secret. It's not like a one-time deal. So you can always reach out. It's a lot of what we did tonight, but just, you know, hey, Ms. Walsh, I noticed you said to do this or this, but I'm a little confused how to find colleges I'm applying to or something like that. So it's more of a reinforcement of tonight and then what your maybe more specific questions are. So if you can't make it, totally get it. We're not, you know, when we say attendance will be taken, it's just because we want to know who's there. We're going to know who's there because we're handing out transcripts. But certainly there's a lot of valid reasons why you might not be able to come. And I know the club fair is one of them and tech school also. So please feel free to reach out, and we'll be happy to give you what you need and answer your questions. We will meet with you probably multiple times this fall. So these are just 2 of the initial groups, just to kind of get the process going.
There are a lot of questions about just Naviance. So if parents or students are not able to log in, what would be the best way for them to get their information for login?
Email their counselor.
Okay, and then some things in Naviance don't appear to be updated, like specifically ACT and SAT scores. How frequently do those get updated?
When we receive the score, so they send them to us, and then we upload them as they're sent. Remember, though, that we don't submit the ACT or the SAT scores. So although it might be, you might feel good seeing your scores in Naviance, they don't go anywhere from us. If you want colleges to get them, you must send them yourself. Go on to and that's in the answers document that I showed you before, exactly how to do it in the site to go to. But as soon as we get the scores from College Board, and sometimes there's a delay, they send them to us like in a file and we have to upload them. We're up to date with whatever file upload we have. But remember that it's in Naviance just for your own, just so you can see it and so forth. But truthfully, the most accurate place is to go to the College Board or the ACT website, and that's where you'd have to request your scores anyway.
There's a clarification about weighted versus unweighted, and I believe you said that when self-reporting, we self-report unweighted.
Correct. On the official transcript, schools that require a transcript, certainly the weighted is there, but just be aware that 90% of the colleges recalculate the GPA. They don't even really use our GPA. Okay, they take the core classes and they put them on a 4.0 scale because they're getting transcripts from West Windsor, Princeton High School, Lawrence, Texas, Florida. Everyone uses a different system. Some use A's and B's, A minus, B minus. Some use numbers. Some, for at one point during COVID, were using pass fail for some classes. So they have to kind of put everybody on a level playing field. So they do 2 things. They take out, most schools will take out a core GPA on a 4.0 scale. That's one GPA that they calculate. The second piece to that, though, is they will rate your rigor of your curriculum. So I don't want you to think that, oh my goodness, why did I take those honors classes if they don't even care? I'm on an unweighted or whatever. Though they care deeply about the rigor of your curriculum and whether you challenged yourself, and challenging yourself looks different for every student. But they will kind of assess your rigor based on what's available and the classes that you chose to take and so forth. So they evaluate your rigor separately, and they calculate a 4.0 GPA using their own method, to be honest. So our GPA goes and they see it, but honestly, almost every school makes a new one so that everybody from around the country is kind of on the same system, if that makes sense.
We have some questions about our courses that have honors and accelerated, such as AT Physics honors or the math. They should be listed as honors courses, and
That's
that's
correct.
in the name.
Yep. Thank you, Sharon.
There are some questions about senior year grades and how those impact your application.
They impact your application. When you first send, okay, if you're going early action or you're doing rolling and you're sending stuff early before the end of the first marking period, they're just going to have your end of your junior year grades, of course, because that's all we have. Almost every school will ask for first marking period grades. And then almost every school will ask for semester grades. So they care deeply. And I don't want to give mean examples of letters that we've gotten where kids had to explain why senior year grades were a lot lower than their other grades. You don't want that. Senior year, the hardest part about senior year is keeping all your grades up while you're also doing this whole process. which I want to say is enjoyable, but let's be honest, like it's also, there's a little added stress to it. We try to make it enjoyable. But I feel you and I understand that it can be stressful, but it's going to be really important to keep maintain your same grades. Just like we said, you had to maintain your same level of rigor into senior year. You can't just take vacation your senior year. They want to make sure that you're going to be academically ready for their school in the fall of 2023. So senior year grades are important. They will ask for them. Anything that I miss? Are there other? Sorry.
Early action and early decision. If you're applying, you only need a form for early decision and you can only apply to one. But you can go back to the answers and you should always check the college website to understand their application options. Don't assume that every school has one or the other or both. Please don't assume they're all the same deadlines. It's very, very important that you get the information from the college's website so that you understand and can plan. And if you have a college that is using a different type of system, it is your responsibility to understand what you need for that college and to communicate it. You can make an appointment with your counselor to discuss it. Just keep in mind that you have to give the 3-week time frame because a counselor, you, teachers, everybody is doing other things. So if you're not sure, look at your website and then bring that information to your counselor and say, here's what I found. This is what they say they need. And you can move on from there.
Thank you, Sherry. That's one of the questions is a teacher told me the deadlines are on Naviance. That is true, but I would always check deadlines against the college website. And then where will this stuff be posted on the district website? It will be posted, Barb, right?
Under counseling departments. Yep. And then you can go to high school counseling and then it'll have the link there.
Perfect. And parents will have access to this resource, because all these resources, because they'll be on the district website as well as Google Classroom.
And it's not really easy to discuss the pros and cons of test optional in this climate tonight, but that is one of the questions. And
so, you know, we speak to a lot of admission reps, and I just mentioned, I just came back from a really amazing visit with the University of Pittsburgh. I spent kind of my Labor Day weekend there in a counselor program. And so you don't have to decide, I'm going to submit my scores or not submit my scores to every school. It's a school by school decision. So it depends where your scores fall in their applicant pool. So for some of your schools, you might submit, and for others of your schools, you might not submit, just because you want to put yourself in the best light. It doesn't mean you have like bad scores if you don't submit. It's just that you know, the test score doesn't define you. So you have a lot of other things going for you, but for some reason, and every college's test averages are higher now, which is a little skewed because in the last few years, only the best scores are being reported, right? So everyone's average SAT scores are higher than they were, say, like 3 years ago. So if you don't fall within that range that they're kind of looking for, it doesn't really serve you to report your scores to that particular school. But then there'll be other schools where probably you will fall in the range and you'll look like you have all this stuff, plus you have good SAT scores. So again, that's kind of a conversation with the counselor, an individual conversation. And also the reps that are coming, as I said, the ones that are coming in the fall. And if you look at the schedule of it in Naviance, that's a great question to ask them. Hey, I'm applying. Should I submit my scores? These are my scores. What do you think? These are our people that are going to be reading your your whole application, your recommendations, evaluating your scores, your essays, and so forth. So that's a great question to ask them.
I think the other thing that's important to note is that A, not all schools are test optional. And then B, some schools are test optional except for particular programs.
Correct.
So they may
Good point.
have a program within the school, for example, engineering, and their engineering program is not test optional. So it's important not only to take a look at the overall school and whether or not it's test optional when deciding, but also the program that you're applying to.
That's a good point. Just be really careful with that. And sometimes, and not too many, but there are some that if you want to be eligible for particular scholarships, you must submit your test scores.
Is there a good resource that we can kind of share out for where people can find information?
It's on the website of each college.
Every
On
college
every
website.
college?
Yeah, there's not really a central hub that gives that stuff. It's also ever changing.
Yeah.
But most of the schools that I spoke to, if they were test optional before, they're remaining test optional through this cycle.
And many, many, many times, you will want to go to Just Naviance to look for that information. And it is really important and useful to go out to the college's website itself to look for things that you have specific questions about, but also you will find other information there, such as what Mrs. Gould just said. I didn't know that engineering needed the scores. So don't rely just on the Naviance link. When you're in the Naviance link, it will link you out to the college. So please use that as a resource to get specific information. And a couple of the questions touched on how many colleges should a student apply, and what if they want to apply to more than the Common App will allow?
That's a good question. There are other ways to apply to schools besides the Common Application. So what you can do is take your grouping of schools and sort of decide, do some of them accept the coalition application? Do some of them have their own application? Our general rule of thumb initially is if they have the Common App or the coalition, do not use the individual apps of the colleges, because what happens with that is if you use Drexel, for example, I don't know if they still have this, but Drexel used to have a VIP application that was specific to Drexel. And if you used that, we were unable, it's kind of a system thing, but it is what it is. We were unable to send all of your stuff through Naviance and have it marry at the college. We actually had to take all of your stuff and send it through snail mail, which colleges don't really appreciate. Remember, the colleges are also dealing with colleges or high schools around the country. Our district, we're fortunate enough, pays a lot of money for the use of Naviance. And so they offer that VIP app for students who maybe, or high schools that don't utilize Naviance, and their kids are doing all the individual applications. And so if it's a VIP app where the application is free, the application fee is free. If you use Common App, there's going to be a spot on there. You're still going to be able to get that same free application for Drexel, for example. So it's not the only way to get you don't have to use the VIP. And actually, because we use Naviance, do not use the VIP. University of Pittsburgh is another example. They use Common App and they have their own application. So do not use Pittsburgh's own application, use the Common Application. And some of them also do the coalition, which is similar to the Common Application. It's really common for large state universities. So depending on your list, you might do some in the coalition. You'll do one coalition for 5 schools. You'll do a Common App for 4 schools, and then you'll do an individual app for anybody that's individual, like Georgetown University. Again, really individual, kind of specific questions. And so as you get your list and you're confused and you need help, that's where our experience comes in. Please, book us, come see us. The counselors are very well versed in this. We have a great team here at South, and we can certainly help you to make this process enjoyable and hopefully less stressful. And the other thing is, make sure you meet with your counselor. Someone asked about, do we use the green cards? or yellow cards or whatever card we varied. It used to be pre-COVID when everything wasn't electronic here. We had kids would submit a card, and when they submitted that card, they would meet with us. We would make sure we had all their stuff, and we would go over their list with them and say, I love your list, or your list makes me nervous, or something. There was a lot more conversation. And so now students can sit from their home computer and just request transcripts. But please don't just do that. Remember, still have those conversations with us about your list. Still triple check to make sure that we have everything we need for the counselor rec packet. Like, those conversations are really important. And most of you come down here. I mean, the office has been a busy hub since we came back last week. But those of you that have not been down here or not doing that, please don't just sit from home and assume everything is great and that we love your list and you have everything in. Because we're a little swamped down here. Make sure you come by and say, Ms. Walsh, I requested transcripts. What do you think of my list? Or what do you, do you have all my stuff? Do you still need something? Here's my updated resume, whatever it is. Keep those conversations coming. We really like to be very involved. And sometimes when it's electronic, for some students, it feels like less involvement. We actually don't like that. So. Anything else? AP Scholar was an example of an honor. Yeah, you can put that as an honor. Again, there's no like 100% rules. You just want to get as much as you can about yourself onto that common application in whatever spot you think it seems fitting. Okay.
So this seems like a good place to end our conversation for tonight, but knowing that the school counselors will be meeting with students tomorrow in small groups, and then they will be able to share more detailed information. You should encourage your child, or if you're on students, to bring specific questions that you might have about your own application, or some of the questions that have come up that have not been able to be answered yet. You can bring those tomorrow as well. And if you're not able to attend tomorrow, then a great suggestion would be to be able to reach out to your counselor and set up a time to have a conversation, and also to look in Google Classroom and on the district website for this presentation again.
And it's not there yet.
No.
Said they don't see it yet. It's not there yet, but it will be there after tomorrow, probably.
Yes.
After our meeting tomorrow. And same with the district website. It's not on the district website yet, but it will get there.
They're asking if you could also please post the link for Book Me in Google Classroom, which I believe it's already
It is.
there.
It's in there. Yeah. Yeah.
So Google Classroom would be another great place to go to be able to find out more information.
And in Google Classroom, I try not to post in the stream. We typically post under classwork, and we give everything a topic to make it a little easier to find. So if you go under classwork in Google Classroom and you go under, the college application process, that's where you're going to ultimately be able to find the answers, as well as some, the book me is already in there, but the slide presentation and some of the things we talked about tonight. It's also where you'll see our room locations for tomorrow.
So thank you to our counselors for taking the time to answer questions, and for Ms. Walsh to be here tonight to present this information to all of the families and students. And thank you all for attending tonight. Please just remember to trust the process and to reach out to your school counselor if you have a question or anything that you want to talk through.
Yes, always.
Take
Have
care,
a great
everyone.
night, everybody. Thank you.